To the first virtual F4SS conference. I won't say annual because we're hoping that the next one will be back in person again, but we'll see how it goes. So thank you for joining and for being willing to go on this virtual ride with us. We hope over the next 4 days that, again, there'll be a lot of information you can take out from it. As COVID has done for many things, it is actually having us adjust our agenda just slightly here. Thanks to Neil Ackerman, who's our keynote speaker. We want to get the full time with him. So what we're going to do is have Neil kick off and talk, and then we're going to go back and kind of do the welcome from Don and myself. So just wanted to let you guys know that if you're following the agenda, we're just adjusting it slightly, but the rest of the afternoon should all be the same. So with that, I will just quickly introduce those who may not know Neil. If you were with F4SS for the last few years, I'm sure you, if you had the pleasure of actually hearing Neil talk when we were down in Florida, he is a fascinating individual and a terrific leader. Right now, he's actually joining us from Israel because his latest assignment is actually as the head of advanced technologies for Johnson & Johnson Global Supply Chain. So he's working across all three sectors of pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and consumer products. And he's actually working with a global team that's trying to create a holistic ecosystem focused on collaborative partnerships around supply chain innovation. So I can't wait to hear what he's going to share with us about the supply chain and resiliency. He also, prior to J&J, worked in e-commerce at Amazon, and he is a world expert on fulfillment and e-commerce fulfillment. Also part of, if you've read Always Day One, which is a new book that's come out, he's actually in it. He's also, you may have seen him in the Wall Street Journal or Forbes or Bloomberg, Business Week, many other publications. He also holds 8 patents, if that weren't enough of his expertise around supply chain. And I'll even say, if you know Neil, you can understand he also is still married and enjoys his goofy dog and his 3 kids. So I can't wait to hear about that, because I wish I could have a goofy dog to hang out with here, and instead I just have my 3 kids to hang out with. So with that, Neil, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking with us again, and I will turn it over to you to share with us.
Great. First of all, Steve, Don, and the whole team here, thank you very much for having me. I'm humbled to be here. I'm sorry that the circumstances are what they are for the world. I think that what J&J decided to do was to pick some of the toughest markets in the world and put me in them. So I'm in the Middle East and Africa. I've seen things that would blow your minds, trust me. I think it was a fun topic today because, I was traveling between Dubai and Jordan, or the UAE, Jordan, and Israel. And the topic of resiliency, agility continues to really come up here. And I wanted to talk to the team about it because I've gotten a real lesson in it, and I'm certainly no expert at every piece of it, but I thought it'd be nice to share some findings. Today, it's about a little past 8 o'clock at night here. My wife is putting the children to bed, I hope. But my dog remains right by my side. This dog has flown on United Airlines many times. He's now a certified service dog. So from 3 years ago when I told you, now he's a service dog in 2 countries, Israel and the United States, and he's taken business class. So he's a spoiled dog too, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to share the presentation here, and I'm not going to read the slides to you. I'm going to give you some points as we go, share some stories, etc. And hopefully you won't be too bored with it. So with that said, I'm assuming you guys can see my screen. And Steve, if so, please give a thumbs
Yeah,
up.
we can, Neil.
Great. So, first of all, I'd like to say that we're going to talk about some of the pillars of resiliency and supply chain. And I made a little agenda here because I think it's important to know that, look, we had a downturn, right, of this huge disruption that we're going through right now. It impacts everything. I'll talk about consumers and customers across the supply chain. Then we, of course, be learning about resiliency and agility. And then we're going to find our way grouping up as we know what actions to take and what pillars and leadership skills we want for the future. So the first thing I want to say is I really don't know the extent of the unknown of what it might be. I don't want to pretend to know anything about when a vaccine will or will not come out, how it will be distributed. I don't think it's fair to know that we all know this. I do know this, that basically we have all had an unexpected blow that has affected us. And in us, in some ways, and I'm very, astute to know that in some of us had some, really tough times, and others have just been complaining about lockdown. And like, for example, I'm in Israel and we're locked down now for the next 14 weeks in a row. And so they just announced that tonight. But what we're learning is that when companies can unlock these hidden pillars, especially in their supply chain, it's a win. So building a resilient supply chain to limit the magnitude and the frequency of these future global disruptions will be fundamental to success. And that is really where I want to take this presentation. So I'm sure you can read some of this about when you went from blue to red, right? Like you had these widespread consequences, big supply and demand drain. We're probably going to have lasting behavioral shifts, although I'm not going to pretend to know everything about behavioral economics. And there will be an imprint, of course, in the global economy. But what's the biggest thing here? If you really had to think about it and say, okay, yeah, this is a novel disruption. I mean, we've never had this before. Okay. But even in the blue, we all had things that we thought were disruptive to us at that time. But what's the one thing that the blue and the red have in common? Because this is where it makes me feel like, okay, I could wake up in the morning, even with 14 weeks of lockdown, even with limited goods available in the supermarkets here in the Middle East, and still understand this concept. And this is the first thing I'd like to share. Friction equals failure. So really think about that for a minute. Anytime there's a significant amount of friction within our supply chain, whether it is before Corona or even after, a big thing to remember is that no matter what your situation is, whether you're in a country listening to me right now that has very limited cases, or you're in a place where I am, which is now ranked the worst place on planet Earth to be sitting at as of tonight. Friction will always equal failure. What's nice about this organization that Don and Steve really and Joy really work hard on is that they help us to find ways to reduce friction and improve success. And so instead of sitting here and talking about all the negativity that is here, and there's plenty, I think it's important that we go from here to the strategies that need to be reprioritized and plans to innovate so we could accelerate. And if we can do that together, I would like us to do that. So if you take away anything from the first few slides, friction equals failure in this flat world where we all impact each other. But now we need to focus on how to make it better. And the first way is we take a look at our consumer behavior and market trends. And this has been a real eye-opening piece for me. You could read this yourself. I'm not going to read slides to you. You all at your computer sitting there. But as you're reading, I'm going to say a few things that I think would really got me, really thinking about this and bringing it home for me. The first one is that even with limited access to some supply and some supply shortfalls, and even some social restrictions some countries have, like the one that I'm in today, what has been true is that even brand loyalty, in many cases, has been replaced by availability. If you really think about how profound that is, the lack of convenience in many of these countries, the job losses, which, by the way, here in the Middle East is almost over 30% of the population, 32% of the population is unemployed. Imagine that, by the way. Before Corona, by the way, it was 4%. And missing supply to meet the demand will continue to teach customers what's essential and what they can live without. Now, as Americans and someone that has lived in America, and of course, as many of you know, in Europe and now the Middle East and Africa, you get to see a wide range of planet Earth. But what I have seen in a drastic way is loyalty being replaced by availability and a big focus on where we're spending our time and our money. If you're lucky enough to not be impacted by this COVID and you still have a job and you still have a lot of money, then maybe this is not exactly for you particularly. But for your supply chain and the majority of the world, it's very important. The other big thing I noticed is the ability to switch between an in-store and an online purchase and collect. Even in countries where I am sitting in now, where where it's so difficult to order online, by the way, and the delivery is totally not Amazon. There's no Amazon here. People are now buying online, even when you can't speak the language. So even though I cannot speak Arabic, and I cannot speak a lot of Hebrew, I have to purchase everything online. And I'm able to do it with little pictures, like in third grade. Although my children have the language of Hebrew and Arabic, so I should probably ask them, but they tend to just ask me for more shekels, which is the equivalent of dollars in the US. And basically they waste my money buying things. But I digress there. The other thing to know is companies are clearly, and consumers and companies together, they're really being marked as a grade by their safety measure and their wellness atmosphere. So if you don't think sustainability matters or their ability to understand safety procedure, people will make choices. And of course, the most important, you're going to find more and more that as we have this flat world, models will be designed and insights will be designed based on even other regions. And you're seeing that now. Other regions are understanding what other types of countries are doing and adopting. But when I was talking to another group of my employees yesterday, they were coming back from Egypt. And we said, what was some of all this consumer behavior, what still stayed the same, Neil? Because I just gave you a whole bunch of things that could possibly be different. But what stayed the same? First, consumers like low prices. I've never seen a consumer wake up and say, I would like to spend more today. They still want a fair or low price. Second, consumers still want wide selection. You never hear Steve wake up in the morning and say, I would like no choices today. So that is true. And third, consumers do like convenience. They don't like to be lots of friction because friction equals failure. So I can't get lettuce here in this country right now. And today was taco night. And to get tacos, we also had to import that from the US because they don't have the taco shells. but I had to adjust. And instead of tacos, I had lettuce, I had cucumbers. And so, and tonight the kid said, actually, I think I like my tacos better with cucumbers. And so what I'm learning is even for little things, you have to adjust, and consumer behaviors are showing that adjustment. And true to state, here are some things I put together yesterday that I've adjusted about what I think some of the things that you may experience as part of this organization, of things that maybe you would want to take away as in this important world we live in today. Perhaps you thought of these things. People want to find ways to reduce the number of trips to the store. They want to be safe. They want options. They may have reduction in discretionary and social spending. They understand the value of safety. They want transparency, visibility. New technologies such as virtual reality may be coming into play. And of course, they want creative communication. I mean, I can tell you that the less contact, the better in this day and age, but you'll need transparency and visibility to make that happen. And so I say to everyone on this, what are the 6 parts of the digital resilient supply chain? How do I go about thinking about making these things happen that are on my screen? How? And I know I don't see your faces, but I'm hoping you're not sleeping when I give you these things. First of all, you probably have heard that we're going to have to start automating tasks. You got to automate the tedious tasks and assess where your human capital is most important. And this will be important as you upskill your workforce. As always, you're going to have to measure. If you heard me in the past, I thought measurement was important. I thought they needed a baseline to govern your performance and your objectives. I've always said that smarter collaborations equals better partnership. But what I didn't say was that more important than ever today, and this is the second quote to take from this presentation, inputs drive outputs. When you have the proper inputs, it doesn't matter what your output is. If your output is revenue, you want to start measuring all the things that make up revenue. How much selection do I have? What was my pricing model? What was the number of volume I put out? How many of my safety stock was ruined, et cetera, et cetera. What things haven't changed also? Speed. If you don't have a bias for action today, you're going to lose, because everyone's going to be faster and more efficient. And sure enough, that's the truth. But if you don't do it with proper insights that spot your limitations and discover your potential for disruptions faster, then you'll lose faster. So I recommend you always to dive deep into your use cases, run those models to make sure you have the diverse group, including the supply base that you need to be the cost improvement planning that's required of what I've told you before of being a revenue generating machine. Because we are no longer this cost center. Think of yourself as a revenue generating asset. And what's the one way you try to do that? Think about venture capitalists. We got to move all our eggs from one basket to many. That's what a good investment strategy is. Diversify your supply chain. Extend and connect your DC, your distribution network. Try to predict the future with demand. But most importantly, the third thing to take away, democratize your data and visibility. Don't be so secretive. There's no reason for secrets. The world's flat. They're going to find out anyway. You're wasting your time. Democratize your data. Demonstrate the visibility. Show people what you can do. Show where your flaws are. Get some help in sourcing it together. Because the days of hiding it are long gone. And everyone knows everything today. Social media has changed the game. I don't know about you, but even here in the Middle East, I hear more about American politics that I want to throw up. So there's so much stuff out there that I can't even limit it. Even my little 7-year-olds hear things on their little Minecraft games now. It's incredible. So I was asked also, but Neil, this is all like a lot of information. How do I bucket this into some pillars? What are these hidden pillars that if I just thought of these things, I think I could really organize it? Well, I will tell you that it's our resiliency is first based on having a balance and knowing the up and downs of your network. But I include this slide just to tell you that I'm not naive to the fact that it is an interconnected group of people. People make the big difference. But where I really want to spend my time is on this slide, because the pillars of resiliency in the global supply chain come down to, I think, 6 things. And these are the things that I'd like to spend a little more time on. The first one is, please work on the impossible problem of knowing your future demand. The second one, know your ecosystem, whether it's e-commerce, offline, both, online. The third one, of course, new perspectives will increase productivity, but focus on generating revenue. Don't be just a cost center. When it comes to quality, on number 4, focus on truth and wellness, sustainability. And when it comes to talent, yes, you're upskilling people, but we are gifted to be in the business of heart. Because when you're on the front line, when you're dealing with suppliers, sourcing, supply chain, manufacturing, raw material, you are dealing with hundreds of thousands, usually, employees in your company, if they're big. And this heart is what you'll need for your talent, empathy. And then I'm going to say that you got to be honest about the future in the long term for sustainability. Don't overlook it. This will be a renewed focus. And when you put these things together, it comes to me down to what I was calling the 3 C's. You want to make sure you have a great culture, the capability to win, and a focus on your customers. When you could complete the 3 C's, culture, capability, customers, and use your pillars and some of the advice of this presentation, you can have resiliency that you can hang on to. But resiliency is really about one thing that is something that's hard to put your handle on, and people say it a lot. They say, well, what is it? I say leadership. They say, well, there's a lot of leadership. So I thought to myself, let me put down some things that I actually believe as to be the definition of agile leadership. The idea of collaboration, inspiration, results, right? So results are driven by what? Collaboration, inspiration, but with proper context to the business. This context part is just as important as leaders that are collaborative and inspirational. They also need to have context to know what to do, to understand the detail as well. And so, of course, like you'll know some themes here. Putting people first. I've always said that. Always be transparent with your data, with your results. Always establish your inspirational vision. Always have collaboration with people. But in that center that I'm showing you there, in that globe of Earth, you need context. Understand what's going on here to build your recovery capabilities and to know the advanced models and partnerships that need to happen. Because without it, we can't win. And so as I say that, we're a global sourcing, supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, marketing, information technology, we're a community. And when you're community, you're one team. So what I wanted to do now was I wanted to, because I've been talking for about 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. I wanted to open it up for a few questions. I cannot promise to know all the answers, but if you think about it, if you have questions, whether it's about e-commerce or Amazon or what it's like living over here, or my dog or my family, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's not a lot of us here. There's 50 plus people. I have only answers to give you and honesty to share. So please feel free to ask anything. Steve, what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen so that way people can see us. I think would be better.
Yeah, that'll be great, Neil.
And I hope that, you know, this was useful for you. I realize that Zoom is not ideal sometimes, but I hope you guys took some nuggets away from these 25 minutes and that people aren't sleeping. I hope so. And if they are sleeping, then you know what? God bless you, because obviously you're very tired. Okay, so that's it. Any questions, my friends?
Yeah, if anyone has questions, please just unmute yourself and ask Neil directly.
Yeah, that's fine.
That would be probably the best way.
Yeah, it's fine.
Neil,
Hi,
it's
Annette.
Annette. I just wanted to say hello and thank you so much for your time. And it was a really great, outstanding presentation. I chuckled a little, but you couldn't hear me on mute.
Oh, it's nice to see you again, Annette. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Neil, it's Fabian from Beyond Meat. I got a question for you.
Hi, Fabian.
How can we kind of enlighten the folks above us that actually make big decisions to start showing this new road of what it should be? Because everybody's very secretive, like you were saying. The world is flat these days. You know, myself personally, I had like a meeting with some folks in in Europe this morning, and everybody's kind of like on the same boat, but there's still not really a way that I can find appealing to present these things so other folks can actually make it happen. What suggestions do you have with this?
First, I would say that everyone's vote counts, and no one has exclusivity on good ideas. So if someone thinks that they are exclusive on all good ideas, then they probably should get their head examined, because that's a total ridiculousness. The second thing I would say is, this is something that is becoming clear across all industries. If it's not clear to executive management that the idea that supply chains are one of the most important pieces of an organization, then I would say arm yourself with data. There is tons of data on the internet that you can get that talks about the importance of whatever particular position you want to take with leadership. What I normally do is I tell people that we're going to do 3 things to convince our leaders. 1, we're going to tell a very clear story and make sure it's simple to understand. 2, we're going to back it with data, because no one can fight you with data. You back it with great data sources. Have approximately 8 to 10 good pieces of data that help your story. And then 3rd and finally, don't forget about the hearts of the people. Talk to the few people that you know are part of what could be in your team. And even if it's just one small team of basketball team of 5, one day you'll have another team and you'll make a league. So what I always say is keep it simple, have your 8 to 10 points of data, and have a little team around you. And together, if you still don't have people that are listening and they still think that they have all the exclusivity on all good ideas, then obviously sell the stock immediately, because no one has exclusivity on good ideas. They come from everywhere. If you're not sure, look at all the unicorns that everyone said would be nothing. And now look at them. And I can show you, tell you example after example. And if we weren't on this thing and I was at the meeting in person, I would sit down with you tonight at dinner and I'd come with 5 examples of things that people thought were never going to happen that did. And how they did it. And they always did it with hearts, data, and simplicity. I hope that helps, Fabian.
Thank you very much, Neil. It certainly does.
Awesome. And thanks for coming on camera. You're like a movie star. Okay, maybe not a movie star. Maybe I was pushing it. But close though, close.
Maybe in another country he'll be a movie star.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, what do you guys think of my headphones? You see, I got these gaming headphones because I had trouble hearing with all the kids screaming. I kind of think I look like an alien robot with these things, but I hear very well, so I'll keep them.
It's like Mickey Mouse without the ears.
Right, that's what I'll tell my daughter. I'm like Mickey Mouse. I'm sure that'll go over real well. Anyway, what else you folks have? Oh, Christy, you wanted me to explain my background. Are you here somewhere?
Neil, she's on. She may not be able to see.
Oh, her
You may not
camera's
be
not
able
working.
to talk, or her camera's not working. Sorry.
Okay. I'll just cut to the chase, Christy. Basically, I'll just go back. I don't want to do my whole career, but I'll just go back the last 10 years. I was at Amazon. Anything you receive in an envelope that's under 10 ounces and less than $10, even today globally, is the patent I hold. It's for small and light fulfillment. Then after that, I worked on a bunch of projects for different CPG companies, including direct-to-consumer type brands at Mondelez. And then I had the privilege of joining J&J in planning. And now I'm in a global expat role, running the advanced technologies for supply chain investments for the Middle East and Africa. But, you know, I think more important though is, you know, I spend a lot of time with my children and a lot of time traveling with them. And I don't do everything right, but I try my best to be the best that I can. And of course, my wife likes me still, so that's good. I hope that gives you something. And if you want more, you can go on LinkedIn and we can go back and forth there. But I don't normally talk about myself that much. But thank you.
Oh, she actually wanted the background screen.
Oh, the background screen?
Yeah, I think she wanted both. Neil, I'll say she wanted both, but the background screen, what that is.
Oh, this is, see that? That is the port of Jaffa. So I live very close to the oldest port in the world. Jaffa is an old city in Israel. It's about an hour from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is, of course, not on the water. It's up on a mountain, as some of you probably know. And the way in the oldie days, the way that people delivered goods when Tel Aviv and Haifa didn't exist was Jaffa. And this is the old city of Jaffa. And that's the old clock tower over there. See? And if you ever come to Israel, I can take you anywhere you want. I pretty much have been everywhere. It's a very small country. It's about 9 miles wide and about, I don't know, a couple hundred miles up and down. So I've been many places and happy to show you places and places that I probably shouldn't be going. I've been there too. So it's been an interesting adventure for my family.
And you can start planning that now because you can't come for 14 weeks, right, Neil? Is that?
Right. No, non-Israeli. I'm not Israeli, but non-Israelis are not allowed to come to Israel. It's locked, the country. I can stay, of course.
Right.
And because I have credentials, I can go to other places like Jordan and all that. I have spent a lot of time in Jordan and in Amman and in other Arab countries, and it's been in Gulf countries, and it's been terrific. I really enjoyed it. In Africa, we've been to Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt. I don't remember all of them, but those are some.
So we have a question. Do you have suggestions or recommendations on strategies to getting multiple sourcing options?
Yes. Isn't it wonderful that you're part of the organization that we're sitting right here on the virtual meeting with? Because what's the best way to get recommendations? Well, let's see. Option one, we can go on the internet. I think we've learned that that might not be the best way. Option two, we can ask our friends in these wonderful organizations that we pay to be a part of for advice, and of course, on anything. And then option three, you can of course get benchmark studies on the different topics of industries. The best way that I have found to get my alternate sourcing options, which I've been helping a lot of companies with, including J&J, especially startups in manufacturing and small brands, is we ask around we do some research. We find out where these raw materials are. We ask other people that work with these materials. We call industry experts, and you'll be surprised how friendly people are and who want to give information. That's how I go about doing it. I don't necessarily know if it's always the right way, but I find that when I work with people and I talk to them, this is always the way that has been the most successful for me. Usually each country has different councils. They have innovation councils, agricultural councils, and I will sometimes call those councils in those countries because every single country has an economic minister or an economic leader that works in the embassy of that country. And there you can also get information like I do. So how I get many of the startups in Africa and the Gulf states is I contact the embassies in those countries. I speak to the economic minister, and she or he always guide me to their reports, which they do all the time. And then I'm able to understand it. They have the same thing for agriculture, by the way, and for manufacturing. The embassies have it all if you want to know. That's their job. And you get it for free if you ask. Does that help answer your question, Greta?
It did. She said, yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, Lena, I don't know if my kids will remember the Travels Forever. Some of them will, others won't, but thank you for the comment. I think some of them want to kill me because they want to go back to America where they can get McDonald's. Let's just say that McDonald's here is not exactly McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other options maybe for the Happy Meal.
It's not McDonald's.
Well, I was that kid getting lugged around, only wanting to spend the summers, watching TV. But as an adult, I appreciated it. As a kid, you just want to hang out with friends.
I'm trying. Yeah, thank you, Lena. Anyone else?
And Lena, thanks for adding your daughter to F4SS. Yeah. Yeah.
God bless Rutherford's half day today. So the future member of F4SS, exactly.
Exactly.
That's how it goes. I mean, that's life today. So we all have to be used to it. It's called, the way it is now.
Yeah. If she goes to school and says friction equals failure, we know we made an
Yeah, we did it.
She'll have her book report in, Steve. She'll have the.
Love it.
Thank you, Steve and Don and Joy and everyone for inviting me to come. And if you don't have, I'm here. If you want more questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, we have up to probably about 15 more minutes with Neil before he has to run. If you have more questions, if not, then we'll let him probably grab some dinner before his next meeting. And but if anybody has anything, please just text it or jump in.
Yeah, and if not, you can always email me on LinkedIn or just give it to Steve or Don and they'll send it to me. This is not the end of the world. We're all people. Just realize I'm many hours ahead of you. So don't call me when it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, your time. All right. You won't believe my boss sometimes calls me at 5 o'clock his time. He says, Neil, why are you sleeping? I said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. That's why I'm sleeping. Is everything okay? It's not easy.
Hey, Neil, maybe one thing from my side is, so, the rest of the conference, we're going to talk all different topics around, resiliency and clearly the impacts of what people are dealing with today. What's probably maybe for you, kind of the one biggest learning you've had, maybe going through all this, whether from, in the States or you've been over in the Middle East since this has occurred, that maybe would just be an eye-opening to share, that you haven't said in the presentation of just what you've experienced.
Yeah, that's a really hard question. One thing that I guess I haven't shared that I don't know if it's eye-opening, but I think it may be because of what I'm watching on the media and the news about people generally. But what I have found is that the world is not as the media always portrays. 99% of this world is filled with amazing, good people that just want to have a peaceful, wonderful life. And it's unbelievable to see all that goodness ripped out. You don't see it on the media, but I see it every day living here and in the countries I go to. So I would say that the biggest thing is the how big the people's hearts are. You really don't see enough of it. And the second thing, I guess it would be the biggest eye-opening from a business standpoint, is how many, and I was telling Fabian this, how many people have these amazing ideas that are so obvious and great after you hear them, and how and why they're so successful. I mean, even during a pandemic in September, Israel had, just little Israel, just a tiny little country, Israel, had $1.2 billion of venture capital investment in just the 25 plus days of business days that made up September in Israel. Do them in 1.2 billion. And these aren't people like J&J. These are small startups that people thought had great ideas living in the most unstable region in the world, getting 1.2 billion to invest in their ideas. Just take it for everyone, just take a step back and think about that. It's the most unstable region in the world. Billions of dollars of foreign money are coming in to invest in the good ideas of people that I guarantee you have a lot less than 99% of the people on this call. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Because I see it. I know exactly where they live. I know exactly how I live. We have a 3-bedroom little apartment. Everyone shares a room, one main room, and my daughter's bedroom is the bomb shelter when the sirens go off, when there's missiles. That's what we live in. And people like this are the people all around my community. Everyone's house has a bomb shelter. And these are people that are earning and getting investment money. So Steve, it goes back to people have a lot of heart, and people also, great ideas come from everywhere. And I really want to stress that point. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And given all the media circus we have going on in this country, it's, I think a lot of us probably on this call have also felt the goodness and, the heart and the support that people have just come out of the woodworks on to help people during this time, right? Because it has been so difficult for so many companies, whether you lost business or you have too much business. It's disrupted so much. So it's really fascinating to hear, Neil, and great to hear at the same time, right, that it's across the world.
The whole world, even this unstable region, has 99% great people. And of course, my 7-year-old daughter, I've told her one day, her name is Tova. And I said, Tova, one day you're going to be at a big meeting that Steve Weinstein will be running. And he'll say, tell me something unique about you. And she'll say, for 2 years, I lived in a bomb shelter in the Middle East. And that'll be her unique story, for breaking the ice when she meets people.
It'll be a tremendous story. That's awesome.
Well, I guess my time is up, but if anyone doesn't have any more questions, I encourage you to email Steve or Don. And Steve, thanks for the note. Neil Gradient, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that note on the side there, the chat. And if anyone has anything they would like, this is your last moment. If not, I'm going to go eat dinner.
Yeah, one thing, there was actually just a question from Syed that was a great question of just, will the presentation, this presentation and others be made available? And because we have basically for everybody who's an attendee, the presentations will be available. Normally, we just keep them in the members section, but what we're going to be doing is having the recordings in the members section. So if you want to rewatch something, please be a member, but just for joining and for participating here, all of the presentations will be shared with all of the attendees. So just to let everybody know.
Great, and I want Annette to know that I'm having tacos again tonight, leftovers with cucumbers and tomatoes.
Excellent.
Well,
Thanks, Neil.
thanks, Neil.
Sure. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, be well.
you.
Be safe.
Thank you. I will. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. This was the highlight of my day. Talk to you
Great.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye, Don.
Bye-bye.